Hello, good morning, welcome back. Today we are going to Joshua Tree again. We are actually hiking a specific trail today, the 49 Palms Oasis Trail, and it is winter time, so it is the best time to go to the desert if you don't want it to be a million degrees. I know that this trail has a few videos on it, other hikers hiking the trail that range from a couple years ago to a couple months ago. But in my humble opinion, none of those videos show the enthusiasm that the desert and the Oasis Trail actually deserve. So at the end of this little out and back trail, there's a bunch of desert fan palms and the little oasis there that gives the trail itself its name. And desert fan palms are a really cool species that we'll talk about throughout the video and get more into that in a little bit. So that's really cool. That's one of the things that makes this trail specifically so cool. And I'm pretty excited about that. I've gone to the Oasis out in the Anza Borrego State Park before, and desert fan palms are a really cool species, so we'll talk about them in a little bit. Also, this specific trail is fairly popular, and since it is a holiday weekend, we're expecting the parking lot to be pretty full. It's right around 8:30 right now, but it's probably going to take us at least another hour to get there, so we're hoping the parking lot isn't full. And on that note, I would like to mention that if you are going into a national park and going somewhere where parking lots fill really fast, please be careful about where you park, because even though you don't see these no parking signs, if you park on a dirt shoulder, that is usually against the rules, especially in desert parks like Joshua Tree and Death Valley, because the dirt on the side of the roadway is still part of that desert ecosystem. It still contains a bunch of microorganisms and things like that that are essential to the overall ecosystem. So if you park on the dirt and it's not like an established parking area where you know for sure you're allowed to park, you will get ticketed, you will get fined. And that's because you are in a national park. National parks have extra rules and regulations that you're not going to see on another public road. So please make sure you check the rules and where you are and are not allowed to park. In general, in these desert parks, they're very specific about where you are and are not allowed to drive your vehicle, and that does include parking. So just don't be surprised if you park on a dirt shoulder and come back to a ticket. That is because it's protecting the ecosystem. The whole point of national parks and national forests and things like that is to protect our ecosystems. So keep that in mind. And with that, hopefully we will find parking pretty easily when we get there. I will see you when we get to Joshua Tree. It'll be like an hour or so for me, but just a couple seconds for you. Look at all of these beautiful lichen colors that have come out clinging to the rock here. I just love lichen. It's a super cool organism that is not a plant, even though it looks like one. I mean, come on, just look at that view on this beautiful overcast day. The rain hasn't quite brought out the wildflowers in the desert yet, but that should start popping up in the next couple of months. Guess we're going right here. You can kind of see poking out right there in that little valley that we're heading to, the first glimpse of the desert fan palms in the 49 Palms Oasis. Alright, so I guess now is as good a time as any to kind of start talking about these oases that pop up in the desert. So the desert fan palms are native to the West Coast, specifically in these desertous regions like the Mojave, to some extent the Sonoran Desert, but pretty much the Mojave is where you're going to find them. They used to be more abundant, but now these oases are kind of dwindling. They're down to 150 some odd left. One cool thing about Joshua Tree National Park is that they have several of the last remaining desert fan palm oases left in the wild. And basically these oases mark a pretty continuous source of water for desert life. So things like bighorn sheep and coyotes will frequent them for that water, especially when you're in such a water-starved landscape. Because these palm trees need a fairly consistent source of water, despite being a desert species. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. So do note that the trail is a lot of rock scrambling and a little bit treacherous in some places, despite being considered a more moderate trail. And that's because you're literally walking back into this little canyon to get to the oasis where that water has been made available by basically activity of fault lines and things like that. So if you're on the trail, really pretty, just be careful, watch your step, because a lot of times you're going to be stepping down things like that, where it can be kind of treacherous. So you can see here clearly that these fan palms do actually mark groundwater here in the middle of the desert. And you have these little oases that basically mean life or death for so many desert species. Now, the fan palms, like the one we're looking at, get their name because of the shape of their specific palm fronds. Now, palm fronds are a type of leaf. Specifically, they are palmate leaves, and they're a very interesting thing if that's something you're going to study. We're not going to get into that right now. These desert fan palms, you may recognize them because they are used pretty regularly in especially West Coast cities. They have kind of become a bit of a problem in, I believe, Hawaii, if I'm remembering correctly. And they do get mistaken for date palms a lot. But there is a difference between them and the date palm, and that is the shape of the palm fronds. The fan palms have a more fanned out shape to their leaves than the date palms do. and also the fruit they produce, which you can see hanging there are more like little berries than dates. So the thing that we see with them is you see all of these years worth of dead palm fronds just kind of hanging there. So while they will, chlorosis will happen, meaning the chlorophyll will move out of the leaves and the leaves will die. They'll no longer be used for photosynthesis. The leaves will not fall off unless either there's strong winds to rip them off or something like a wildfire to come and burn them off, which you can see in some of the other clips that I have taken here. They also have these very thick trunks, which help protect them from intense heat from fires and things. But these oases are very important to the desert ecosystem because, like I said, things like bighorn sheep, coyotes, foxes, they'll all come and rely on this water source here. But in these dead palm fronds from years past, we get things like little birds that we can hear all over the place. Will actually nest in them, and there is a species of bat that relies on these palm fronds as well out here in the desert because it pretty much exclusively lives in them. So as the wild oases dwindle, it also puts these important ecosystems that depend on the desert fan palm in danger. So it's more than just these palm tree species, it's also every other species that relies on them. If they disappear, like I said, there's only 150 some odd wild oases left out here in the western deserts, and they are most commonly going to be found in the Mojave Desert, which is why Joshua Tree National Park boasts several of the last remaining oases. The only other one I've ever hiked out to is the one in the Anza Borrego Desert, and that hike is a really cool hike as well that we might do here in the future. We will see. But my national park pass is specifically for national parks and national forests, not for state parks. But we will see what the future holds. But these desert fan palms are just a really cool little splash of life out here, seemingly in the middle of nowhere. But the desert itself is actually full of life if you know where to look. It's just most of the time the plant life out here is short-lived and does dry up. Even though it's not dead, it's just dormant. All right, so we've made it back to the car now. It's a little bit warmer than we were expecting, but not by a whole lot. There's been a nice breeze. It's still lovely and overcast. So I guess in closing here, just make sure you pay attention where you put your feet so you don't, I don't know, roll your ankle maybe on a rock and end up in a bit of pain by the time you get back to the car. Pay attention to all those national park rules and regulations, and just kind of carry enough water because you are in the desert. Even in the winter, it can get pretty hot. Make sure you have water. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time, guys. Bye. Thank you again for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell if you would like to see more. And if you'd like to follow me on any of my other social medias, the links are down in the description below. Don't forget to check out thereptilegoth.com for all of my articles and blog posts. If you found any value in this video and you would like to help support the channel, please check out my Patreon page. That link is also in the description down below. And a special thanks goes out to my Diamond Dragon patron, Diane V. What you're doing is really helping me fund a dream here. I will see you guys all in the next one.